What should you know when buying a home in Arizona? Hi, my name is Nicole Black, your Arizona Realtor, and I have to tell you, it's a loaded question because Arizona is so different from north, south, east, and west. It is so different. Every area has its own special, unique character, home style, culture, and beauty. Depends what you are looking for. So, when you're looking to buy in Arizona, first and foremost, you have to figure out where. So, one thing that's going to help narrow it down is finding out what you want to pay for a home. So, go get either pre-qualified or have a proof of funds so you know exactly what you want to spend on a home, and that can narrow down certain areas. Once you know the finance aspect of it or the financial price range point that you want to spend, then next is to go, okay, knowing that, what areas are going to support my wants and my needs? Meaning, do you need to be by your job? Do you not like to commute far to go to work or to take kids to school? What about the schools? Good, bad, I don't know, medium, mediocre. You need to find those things out. Do you want to have a good walkability score? Do you want to have parks nearby? Hiking? We have so much hiking here. But you want to be shopping, restaurants? Are you okay being further out in nature and driving into things? These are all the things you need to write down and figure out. Then let an expert in Arizona find a realtor that knows your price point and your wants and your needs. And then you can start doing a deep dive into what kind of house you want. Now, when you're looking for houses, I say there's 3 L's in real estate, and it's not location, location, location. Location is one of them. It's just not all of them. So first is location, second is lot, and third is living area. So when you're looking for the house, it may be in the area you want, but is the lot facing the direction that you care for? For example, my husband is bananas about where the backyard faces because he is from Washington State and he loves sunshine. He has been in enough clouds, gray, and rain for the rest of his life. So when we buy a house in Arizona, he wants a south facing backyard. If it's south facing, the probability of having sun in the backyard all day is very good. He loves this. Other people are like, oh my, I love the sunshine outside, but I don't need it in my backyard. I can see it right there. So they rather have a north facing backyard. So that's what I mean about lot. And then in addition, what's around you. If you have a 1-story home and there's 2 stories all around, are they looking in? Is it a corner lot, an end lot? So stuff like that. You want to kind of like pay attention to. And then the living area. How does the house flow? Is it going to be conducive to your family and your needs and your lifestyle? My husband and I are very picky about this. We are big entertainers. We have family come in town from Washington all the time. So we want to make sure that the kitchen, living, and outdoor area flows really smooth, and that we have bedrooms separated. So you've got your master on one side and the other bedrooms on the other side. These are things to think about. Now, after you nail all that down, you've got your area, and now you're about to go under contract. What do you need? Number one, you must make sure that you have either proof of funds or a AAR pre-qual form. Yes, an AAR pre-qual form. You have to have one or the other when submitting a purchase contract in Arizona, not a letter from your lender. Because I know, because I also have my license in Washington State. There, you just need a letter, not in Arizona. It's actually in our purchase contract. It actually has a line that says you need one or the other when submitting. And now that's what we're going to dive into. We are going to go into the Arizona purchase contract and go over all the things that you should know once you do find that home that you want to buy here that can really sometimes make or break your deal in purchasing a house. Okay, one thing to know about the Arizona real estate purchase contract is there are a lot of things in here to protect you as a buyer and a seller. So it's really important to know what those things are. And you would assume that everybody reads through all this and everybody you speak to that's consulting you knows everything in here. Not all the time. So I'm going to bring up some of the key things that I see that not everybody reads or gets explained or maybe bypasses on this purchase contract. And again, some of this stuff you're going to be like, wow, I really wish I would have known. So first part is here is the fixtures and personal property. So as you walk through the home, many people assume that, let's say there's a Tesla charger on the wall, that comes with the house. That's not on here. So if the seller does not put somewhere like on the listing sheet that stays with the home, then it doesn't stay with the home. You don't get it. So that either going to be purchased later or written in a different form, but it's not going with the home. Other things are like light fixtures and washer and dryers and refrigerators. It's always really important to have your agent, if you want to keep the refrigerator and if the washer and dryer are not already added into the listing, to write down, check the boxes. Yes, refrigerator, washer, dryer, right down here, and give a description. Say, as seen on the day of whatever day you went to see the house, and maybe the LG. And if you take even a picture and you know the model number, I mean, it's a little far, but you know what, crazier things have happened where people say, yeah, I'll give you the refrigerator, and they'll swap it out for the one in the garage, and they take the good one. And they can do that if it's not specifically written down. So you're going to want that to get specific. Other things like you walk through a house, you see, oh my gosh, I love these curtains, right? And the rods. Sometimes the sellers don't know, they can't take them. If they don't put it in the listing prior and it doesn't get negotiated, they stay as the purchase contract with the home. So when you do your final walkthrough, and that's the case that they should be there, make sure they're there. Also, stuff like TV, the mounts, they can take the TV obviously, but the actual wall mount they cannot take unless otherwise specified in like the listing or any other terms. If not, it needs to be there. Garage door openers, mailbox keys. You always want to check all these things are there. So you want to look at that list, make sure that either if you do want something, don't want something, either goes in a contract, a purchase of sale after the fact, or it's there when you get there for your walkthrough. So stuff to definitely look at. Okay, and remember when I told you there is a line in the purchase contract that states that you need an AAR pre-qualification form is attached if there is financing, or you have proof of funds if it's an all cash sale. As you see here, you do need that AAR pre-qual form. So my biggest thing is don't find a house that you absolutely love and then you can't put an offer on it for a while because you don't have that form and all your ducks in a row. So make sure when you're going to look for a home in Arizona that you've already talked to a loan officer, you've gotten them all the information that they need, and then don't have them give them the form yet, because the form, I believe, only lasts about 60 days. Wait till you find the home, and believe me, a good loan officer knows if you're looking for a home, that your phone can go off any day. And it'd be a text from you going, hey, I need that form. And most of them can get to you in a very timely manner so that you're able to put that contract in that home. So just want to let you know that. Next, I want to cover this because this one is one of those rare things that have come up where I've had agents even call me and be like, hey, can you get me the CC&Rs? Because I live in a community. They're like for the HOA because our 10-day inspection period is almost up. And we're going to cover the inspection period and all that in just a little bit. But I'm like, but your clients haven't received the HOA CC&Rs from title yet? And they said no. And I'm like, it's just right here. So let's read through this. The title commitment and the title insurance and the report for title will all come to you on the house. So if there's like easements, if there's tax liens on the property, you're going to get that from title, including but not limited to the conditions, covenants, and restrictions, the CC&Rs, deed restrictions, and easements. The buyer shall have 5 days after receipt to review these. So you have 5 days from receipt of your CC&Rs to make sure that you were in agreement with them before purchasing this home, whether or not it's within your 10-day inspection period. Now, good title companies, they can get this to you typically within that period. So it's usually not always a thing, but sometimes the HOAs aren't that good. Sorry, HOA people, but some of them, you know when you're good and you also know when they're not good. Sometimes the title there's a lag because title asks for it and it takes a while to get those CC&Rs, and it can be sometimes like on the 8th day of your inspection period. So now, do you want to know as a buyer and also as a seller that now there's an additional 3 days past that because they get 5 days to review that to whether or not they want to purchase the home? I think you want to know that information. In addition, as a buyer, I have so many clients. They're like, well, what can are short-term rentals allowed? And it's either they want a short-term rental or at least have the option, or they don't want to live in a neighborhood with them. So that's going to be in those CCNRs, and that's really good information to know. Next, we're going to cover disclosures. Within 3 days of accepted contract, you should get the seller's property disclosure statement. We call it the SPUDs. So if you ever hear somebody say SPUDs, that's what they're talking about, not a potato. The seller property disclosure statement. This is within 3 days because, for example, typically you don't get a home inspection like a general one, like sometimes you get it within 3 days, but usually, it takes like a week, sometimes. But it's nice to have this because this is the seller saying, this is what's happened on our property. We're fully disclosing it. We had a leak in our garage that we had repaired by X, Y, and Z. We had termites and we had those traded by X, Y, and Z. You want to know those things so that you can give them to your general home inspector. Say, can you please look at these key areas that they put on the SPUDs just to make sure that they were appropriately corrected by your eye? Or do we need to have more inspection on these certain areas? So it's nice to have your SPUDs, your insurance claim history. They have to give you a 5-year insurance claim if anything was reported on it, so you know that information. Next, you have your FIRPTA. That's your foreign sellers. This is rare, but I'm actually in a deal right now that has FIRPTA. And please be aware, buyers, be aware with FIRPTA. One, you want a title company that knows how to work with FIRPTA. So the second thing you want to understand is you are responsible for making sure that those sellers pay the tax. I know. Same thing. Like, I was like, why would we be responsible to make sure they pay the tax when it's their tax? I have no answer for that at all, but I want you to be aware so that you understand all the documents that they're going to be sending, because title will be sending you a bunch of documents, stuff that you have to fill out, read, understand, know, and then that you are responsible. Come that day of close of escrow, you have to make sure that that is going to be taken care of, because if it's not, it's on you. All right, next, the due diligence period, because in Arizona, when you start with the residential purchase contract, you are buying the home as is. Yes, but it is written in the contract that you get 10 days unless it's changed. You can change it to a shorter time frame if you want, or waive it. Highly recommend you never, ever do that. It's just, it's always in your best interest to never waive it at all. But you do, it's written right here. So you're buying the home as is. In the contract, though, you do have a 10-day inspection period unless it's changed otherwise for you to get all the inspections that you want. What we highly recommend, obviously, is general home, pool and spa if there's a pool and spa, termite, mold, radon, sewer scope. If the roof is over 10 years old, you're going to see in your buyer advisory form what you're going to get, and you should get from your agent, that if the roof is more than 10 years old, you should have a professional roofer up there looking at it as well. And you can also get a professional for the pool and the AC units as well, because these can be major expenses in the long term that you might want to be aware of before purchasing. Okay, so you do your 10-day inspection. Let's say the general home inspector, which I have been a part of, finds that the home has structural issues. Now, they are not structural engineers. So if there are like significant structural issues that you want to know about, you may need an extension on your a 10-day inspection period. That can be done. That's not a problem if both parties agree, or you can walk away. I don't believe structural issues are anything that you should bat an eye at and just go, whatever, when the house is moving. You should probably know why it's moving. So that is going to be highly recommended by your agent. And I would say vice versa on the seller side, they should be understanding on that point because their house is moving. And if they're not aware, that would be interesting. Especially if it's significant. This one, we actually had cabinets coming off the wall, stress fractures in the ceiling, cracks all over the walls, nails popping, cracks in the tile. I mean, this is stuff that you should definitely investigate and then need some additional time for more inspection. Now, I want to know, once you do finally send over, like, okay, here is what we want repaired, or we take it as is, or all those things, like, there's always going to be stuff. So just be aware too, anytime you buy a house, even if it's brand new, there will always be something on the inspection report. Always. So don't freak out when it's 55 pages long, because that's not weird. It really isn't. It's just more what is in the 55 pages that you should be very concerned about. Like, are they things that are going to make or break your deal or be huge expenses in the future? Now, they're going to get 5 days to respond to that, to whether or not if they're going to correct all, none, or some. So just know, unless otherwise changed again in the contract. But I will note line 287 in our purchase contract. If buyer fails to give the notice of the disapproval of the items or cancellations of this or items or cancellation of this contract within the specific time period, which is at 10 days, you've elected to buy the house regardless. So if there's issues and you're not okay and you just don't respond, you're buying it. You're down for that. I mean, granted, there's other things, of course, you have if you're financing, there's appraisal, financing contingency, but for an inspection period, that's gone. So please be aware, do respond within the 10 days or ask for an extension if it is necessary and you need it. I do also want to point out, because here's another thing that a lot of people that I just don't think are aware of, and from all the transactions that I've done, especially when we're doing a purchase, and I don't have these things prior, I'm like, well, okay. So be aware. If the seller agrees in writing, so you can see here I'm at 278B. If seller agrees in writing to correct the items disapproved, seller shall correct the items, complete any repairs in a workmanlike manner. We'll talk about that. And deliver paid receipts showing that the corrections and repairs have been done 3 days prior to close of escrow. Please note that. Write that down if you're buying or selling. Have that ready. It is fair. It is going to make the process so much easier for everyone to make sure you have everyone has a smooth close of escrow. It is fair to everyone, because if something's not done correctly or not done at all, we can jump ahead of it before that day instead of having to do a cure notice, pushing back the closing day, and other things that could just they're not necessary. So be aware of that. Now, I said workmanlike manner. So there is something called the Arizona, I think, contract, a Regstar. It's, I'll get it right, I promise. I'll put it up here, the link to the website. When you go there, certain things can only be done by a licensed professional. So if you're a seller, I would not cut corners on certain things and have, quote, handyman fix them, when legally or through the statutes of Arizona and for contractors, they need to be done, because that's what that workmanlike manner means. So the buyers have a level of protection already in the contract that, yes, some things don't need to be done by a licensed contractor, like that's okay, but some things do. So just make sure you're aware of that and you know that as a seller and also as a buyer. Oh, and real quickly, I just want to jump back for a second. When the inspection does occur, sellers and buyers, this is my huge just information. Please. When the inspection happens, especially the general, actually I should say, I mean, sewer scope's probably the only one where I'm like, well, it's outside. So let's go through the cleanouts. But when the inspection's happening, don't be home. Don't be around. Work at Starbucks that day if you work from home. Find an office, find a workspace, a WeWork. Work somewhere else. Just don't be there, at least when the buyers come with their agent to do the review with the inspector. That is their time to have a full-on conversation, ask questions, get comments, concerns freely out without the ears of the seller around. They have that right. So please make sure that you, even if you work from home, you are not home during that time, that you find another place to work. They are allowed this time, and it's fair to everyone all around. I've had a couple times where unfortunately it hasn't occurred. I've had to ask actually a seller to please leave due to it just wasn't going well. We weren't, quote, left alone. And my people, my buyers, deserve that time. That is their time, and there shouldn't be interjection. So I had to ask someone to step away. So just for everyone And you believe me, sellers are going to be happy that that happened as well, because sometimes the other agents and I've had this happen too, where I try to get my clients, so they work from home. I'm like, please, just make sure you're not there. Like, okay. And something happened and they got caught in the crossways, and that agent immediately started asking questions that I would preferred not were asked. But it's all good. Just saying, for everyone, just try to keep it clean, try to keep it respectful, professional, and fair. So these are the little notes I'm trying to give to you to make sure it's the best situation for you guys all around. Okay, another thing, the appraisal, if your buyer is financing, or if you're a buyer financing, usually is not ordered until the BINSR, which is the buyer inspection notice seller response, sorry, is complete. So you guys come to terms on what's going to happen regarding any things that need to be fixed or not fixed. Once that's settled, then the appraisal is usually sent out to go out and actually do the appraisal. So then once the appraisal done, just FYI, here's another thing to note. If it comes in right at purchasing price or over, high five, we're good to go. No appraisal issues. Could there be though? Yes. So you need to be aware that if a house does not appraise for the purchase price, at least, so let's say it's $750, it appraises for $730. There is a $20,000 gap between the purchase price that somebody put in the purchase for and what the home is appraising for. What happens? So there's a couple options. One, the seller brings the price down to the appraisal price, which is $730. You got to cover the gap. You cannot not cover the gap. Let's put it that way. So the seller does that. Or the buyer gives cash. Can't put it in the loan. It's got to be cash. So they're going to give an additional $20,000 to cover the appraisal gap, or both can meet in the middle. And lastly, you can cancel the contract and it's done. So just want to let you know about appraisal gaps. It can be a big thing. In the past 4 years, it's been a thing because our appreciation's been so crazy, all these different things. It's just in 2020 and 2021, the amount of sales and how fast they were going over asking, the appraisals couldn't keep up. So there was a ton of appraisal waivers, which means you just completely waived even anything because you're going to actually do it in cash, so you couldn't get out for that reason. Or there was appraisal shortfalls where, okay, if it didn't do this, but we'll come up this much kind of thing. So those are just kind of want to make you aware that those do exist. Okay, and when you finally get down to all those things are done, you've got the inspections done, the appraisal done, the financing's done, everything is good to go. Do not forget to call the utility companies at least 1 week prior to that close of escrow date to schedule. I always advise my sellers, do it 1 day after. I know, but do it 1 day, give grace, do 1 day after just in case something happens. And my buyers day of, and you guys can, or whenever they do, sometimes they'll call like, oh, I got this day. And then that, so, but whatever you guys want to do, I just advise that. And then the other thing is I have so many buyers, especially from out of state. And like, can I start shipping things there the next day or that day? Do not plan on moving in the day of close of escrow is my recommendation, because there are so many things that could happen to postpone that closing. And by the way, closing means not your final walkthrough and you sign off. Closing on the home where you actually have ownership as a buyer is when it is funded and then recorded. Until that moment, you do not own that home at all. So please do not expect to send things there, start working on there, start moving in that day. It's a big thing. And then I know a lot of people like that, like start sending mattresses and furniture and all the thing. I recommend 2 to 3 days after close of escrow. Don't hate me. This is just my recommendation from what I've seen. Because if it doesn't close that day and you need the buffer time, and then you go, well, can they at least put it in the garage, the sellers? Like, what's the big deal, right? I've had sellers say, nope, because it's liability. Now, they're legally responsible, and their insurance needs to cover that property that you have in their house, because it's not your house yet, it's still their house. It is just a headache. So just to avoid headaches, buffer, plan ahead. know the day of close of escrow. You may not be able to enter the home or till past 5 p.m. that night. So just prepare, think about things, get your utilities in order, get your orders there 2 to 3 days after. Do not do day of. I still don't even think the day after is still sometimes pushing it, just to make sure you have your ducks in a row. Okay, well, I know that was a lot, and I'm gonna tell you, it's almost just scratching the surface with real estate. There are so many minutiae and things and facets that or go into that I can't even begin because I guarantee you I will never experience them all in a lifetime. I know every real estate agent out there, they know that every transaction is 100% different. They're never the same. There's always things that come up that you're like, that's new. Never saw that before. That's a different question. But we love it. I hope that this helped you because these are really good nuggets to know when buying a home in Arizona. I hope somehow they can help protect you or help you with the transaction to make it smoother, easier, and know how you're protected. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to call, text, email, whatever your preferred communication is. I will get back to you. And wherever you are in the world today, I hope you're doing absolutely amazing. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this help this helpful because this is what we do. And never forget, we are always here for you.